Welcome to Live Your Love, the Alicia Doss Show. Today, I am deeply honored to welcome Dr. Francesca McCartney. Francesca, a big warm welcome.
Aloha, Alicia. Happy to be here with you.
Aloha, delighted to have you. So, beloved listeners and watchers, I'll tell you a little bit about may I call you Francesca?
Yes, please.
Okay, wonderful. I'll tell you a little bit about Francesca McCartney, and then we'll hear from Dr. McCartney. So Dr. McCartney is very storied. I'll tell you a bit about her and then about my own personal experience with her. So since 1976, Dr. McCartney has worked in the field of intuition as a medical intuitive in an integrative health clinic, a spiritual counselor, author, and educator. In 1984, Francesca McCartney founded the Academy of Intuition Medicine in Mill Valley, California. Since 2006, it grants PhD and MS degrees in integrative holistic health. Francesca synthesizes her decades of study in Eastern and Western spiritual and healing arts into an inclusive approach, which respects both the inherent uniqueness of the individual and the commonalities that bind us all together. From her pastoral counseling and medical intuitive work with thousands of clients, Francesca developed the intuition medicine curriculum. Dr. McCartney is the inaugural recipient of the dual PhD in intuition medicine and energy medicine. She has a very storied biography, which I'm just going to synopsize. For over 40 years, she studied and taught disciplines from both Eastern and Western mysticism, including studying with Kirpal Singh for 5 years, as well as Theosophy, the Rosicrucian Society, and has been a licensed non-denominational Christian minister since 1976. In 2002, she received her doctoral degree with honors in energy medicine and intuition medicine from Greenwich University. She's been a renowned medical intuitive, distance healer, professor, writer, and grant recipient. She's one of the first professional intuitives to practice an interdisciplinary modality combining Eastern and Western healing arts in a holistic system. She's published at least 2 books, Intuition Medicine, The Science of Energy, and Body of Health, The Science of Intuition Medicine. She's presented at the famed Omega and Sounds True Institutes. Her CV goes on for pages and pages. So in the interest of letting us hear from Dr. McCartney herself, I wanted to just share my own heartfelt welcome. First of all, I read Body of Health. This is my own copy, which is completely earmarked. I've folded down so many pages, highlighted all through it. It is a treasure trove of intuition medicine. I learned so much from this book, which you can find on Amazon. And there's actually been a few people who have experienced both of our work and said it's very similar in terms of sensibility and that blend of Eastern and Western mysticism. And Francesca, you're really considered a living legend. You really are. And there are not very many people who could say that. I'm really deeply honored to have you on. Listeners, you are in for a rare treat. So a very heartfelt welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, where I am now as a medical intuitive and spiritual counselor began when I was 21. I had been a practicing Catholic up until that time, and I was given an invitation to join a Eastern medicine meditation teaching group. And the Eastern teacher was Kirpal Singh, who you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And you may not know this, Alicia, but we have a lineage connection, you and I, all the way back to Kirpal Singh. Are you aware of that?
Well, I know we both study sound current initiation. And
yes.
Francesca, apologies, I forgot, speaking of that, to call in the light. Do you mind if I do that? And then please. I would love to hear about your journey.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So if you would, listeners, if we could just take a moment and just set the space. So let's just take a moment and just place your hands on your heart, unless you're driving, in which case just set your intention. And just be aware of the gentle rising and falling of your chest. As you just take a deep breath and breathe in love. And as you exhale, you just let go of anything else less than love. Just let it all go. And now take in a deep breath, breathe in love into your heart chakra. And as you exhale, that love just amplifies. And be aware of connecting heart to heart with each one on this call. And now connecting heart to heart with that heart chakra that is our beautiful planet, the universe, the heart of spirit, of the divine, of God, of goddess. Feel yourself surrounded by love, filled with love, with light. Opening to that light, aware of the light of the beautiful divine spirit, the supreme being, flowing from the highest realms of light through our body and consciousnesses into the deep core of the earth, the crown chakra of the earth, dropping a grounding cord from our root chakras, our feet chakras, into the deep core of the earth, expanding out to the poles, feeling the growing things surrounding us, grounding us, feeling stable, rooted, solid. And even so now, releasing anything less than love, any negativity or karma, as we open and flow and soar into the light, being aware that we are a pillar of light. As we open to spiritual assistance imminently available, that we are one with the source of light itself, that we are love, that we are one. We place this beautiful conversation into the light, asking only the highest good come forward, and that each one participating, listening, which is the most beautiful participation, be blessed and sanctified, and so be it. Blessed be, and amen. Thank you. I would love to hear about your journey, Francesca, and you mentioned the shared path.
I have always been a highly sensitive person. And as a young person, I felt others' emotions. I knew when they were sad. I knew when they were happy. I also, and that's clairsentience, I also had the gift of clairvoyance, which I thought everyone had. And I would see energy fields. I would see the aura around people. And I would simply know stuff about people and understand them in a holistic way. I thought everyone had those human capacity perceptions developed. And I came to find out that not everyone does or did. At age 21, I began an initiation into the sound current with a East Indian master teacher, and my clairvoyance and my clairsentience and all my other intuitive perceptions began to more strongly develop and become part of my extended senses and human consciousness about both myself and understanding other people. When I was in a meditation after reading the Bhagavad Gita, I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, and I had energy, hot, burning energy rise up my spine, out the top of my head, and it catapulted me out of my body and into what was the starry sky with brilliant colors. And I heard a voice saying, Kundalini. And hearing voices like that is clairaudience. I had no idea what Kundalini meant. So I began my research in understanding the spiritual nature of a spontaneous understanding of Kundalini energy. That was actually the start of my journey path to understand how human consciousness and spirituality interconnects in creating a very profound embodiment of our soul into our physical body as a signal towards understanding what our journey is this lifetime. And that has been my soul journey, is training people, teaching people, guiding people to find that soul purpose. That is the best health medicine that a person can practice and can be on. So in part of my journey, I began studying for a decade with alternative and complementary doctors. I was very fortunate to make these connections with medical doctors, chiropractors, botanical teachers, and I started working at the Academy of Eastern Medicine. I was invited to be their meditation instructor. So I taught the doctors' patients how to meditate. This is in the 1970s, 1976. That was an extraordinary thing for a medical doctor to be doing. Yeah, I was fortunate to meet this person at a alternative and complementary conference. And he was a Buddhist Zazen meditator. And we began talking. I was actually introducing the speakers. We began talking. He said, I've been looking for someone like you who understands how meditation can be a better medication for high blood pressure, because he had a lot of patients who had high blood pressure. So I was on the clinic staff for 7 years, teaching people to meditate. And these were mostly people who never had meditated before in their lives. I was also fortunate enough in those 7 years to make the rounds with the different doctors and learn homeopathy, botanical medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, acupuncture, and many other alternative and complementary medicines. At 1984, I resigned to begin my Academy of Intuition Medicine. And I had been seeing private clients during that time and focusing on being a medical intuitive and correlating what their physical ailments or their mental, psychological ailments were, and how that was interconnected to the subtle body, the chakras, the aura, and their ill health or their disease. So from all of that accumulation of studies with my private clients and with the medical lay training that I was getting, I created a curriculum for the Academy of Intuition Medicine. Kind of rolling back, I am trained as an educator. I was a Montessori teacher in my 20s, and I used that as a basis for training people and teaching people. So our curriculum is based on research, medicine, personal observation, and the 40 years, we're in our 40th year now, 40 years of training people to open up their more than 5 senses. Right now it's researched as 21 human senses that we can tap into, and to use all of their human consciousness senses to develop becoming their own best healer, their own best physician. And because we are California state approved as a vocational training school, our students, when they graduate, can legally open up a practice as a medical intuitive, spiritual counselor, intuition medicine practitioner. So that's kind of the short story of where we got to the Academy School and how it developed.
Beautiful. I love that. So tell me, Francesca, of course I'm intrigued. You said we share a common path. Are you referring to Kirpal Singh and the sound current meditation?
Yes.
What was your experience with that?
Well, it was actually quite interesting. I studied with Kirpal Singh. I was initiated into the sound current at age 21. What age were you when you were initiated into that path?
23.
Oh, 23. Okay. And when Kirpal Singh came to the United States in the 70s, were you on tour with him then?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that was a little before my time.
Oh, okay. You're quite a bit younger than I am. Yeah, I'm 76 now. So in the 70s, when he came to the United States on tour, I was part of his entourage and followed him
Wow.
across the United States. So
Wow.
I got a lot of insider
Oh,
time
that
with
must have
him.
been extraordinary.
It was very extraordinary, inviting to have dinners with him and his son and his family and such. And so I was very deeply engaged with that training. And what I experienced, and this is during my 20s, was a way to tap into a deeper soul self, an embodiment of my natural sensitivities and intuitive perceptions, and understand that was what was guiding me to become more human and more spiritually conscious through the meditation of the sound current and the practice of as that meditation practice was, it was based on peace, profound peace in the world and with each human being. So during that time, my intuitive perceptions really expanded, and I was in communication with the teacher, Gurpal Singh, and I communicated to him that my clairvoyance was extraordinarily vivid and it was becoming stronger, and I was seeing all these patterns. And he advised me that I was not a guru and it was not something that I should be doing. Yeah, I was very dismayed at that. And
Yes.
what I understood at that time and what I understand now and respect is that his culture, his East Indian culture.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's an East Indian culture.
Exactly.
Only the guru
I'm
can
half
have these.
Indian, by the way. I'm half Indian, so I understand that culture
Oh,
intimately.
okay.
Das is Indian, my father.
Ah, well, I'm actually going to India in December. I have extended family there in Mumbai.
Wow. Wow.
We have a
So
lot
so
of
I
connections.
yes, I intimately understand where you're coming from. So please continue.
Okay, so he advised me that I wasn't a guru and I should stop being clairvoyant and, like that. And I was a woman too. So you understand
Exactly.
that,
That's the
yes.
problem. Exactly.
So, I gracefully disengaged from that practice and I
Yes.
began my own search for understanding and developing more of my talent, my God-given talents. So that's when I
Yes.
began to study theosophy, the Rosicrucian system, many different spiritual traditions, and coupled that with I'm very focused on research and finding in Western understanding of spiritual theology how the two come together. And I was really on a path of let's prove this subtle energy and spiritual stuff from a Western perspective. So as you know, reading my book, Body of Health,
Yes.
all the citations that I have, voluminous citations, I go back to research studies that prove subtle energy, intuition, connection to spirituality and soul are grounded and have been researched for over 150 years. And most people don't know about that research unless they do it.
Which is what I loved. I mean, I wish you could see I have things in the, this is a very well-loved book, which I love because I was pre-med. I have 5 doctors in my immediate family. And I am very much a blend of East and West because of course, I very much understand the patriarchal, and I don't mean this pejoratively, but I also dealt with exactly the same thing, had lots of spiritual gifts myself and ran up against so much persecution. And being a woman with spiritual gifts, I did stay in the sound current path because that was my path, but it was like walking through fire to go up on stage. And I actually got more persecuted by women than men when I went up and walked on stage to sit on the stage and be a spiritual intuitive. I couldn't even call myself a spiritual teacher, by the way, a spiritual guide, if you will, facilitator, but I did it because that's because my allegiance my allegiance had to be to spirit, not to the people. Who were opposing me. At the end of the day, it had to be to spirit. And eventually, I survived it and was able to do my work. And those people that I was serving then supported me, and I was able to continue to assist and to serve within the organization, but mostly outside of it. And, now it's a peaceful coexistence, but it's a change that's necessary from the patriarchal to the, not really to the matriarchal, to the, we're all people serving the spirit, serving as spirit, not as a male, female, but as love. And not as a guru student, but as serving the spirit within each and calling forward the spirit. That's why I love your study of self-healing, of calling forward the highest within the individual. So with that, how did you move from being a medical intuitive and a practitioner to starting a school?
I'm an educator. When people ask me, what's your career? I always say I'm an educator. And I knew that from a very early age that I was a teacher. And so it was a natural transition for me after amassing all this experience and all this knowledge and wisdom from various profound teachers to create a curriculum. My school is very curriculum based. We have protocols, we have step-by-step training. There is an understanding that's attached to every tool and every topic that we teach that's based on research. And for me, I love creating curriculum and I love educating people. So that was kind of a natural confluence for me. And I have a question for you. Are you still practicing the sound current?
I am.
Ah, okay. I have another story about that if you would like to hear it.
I'd love to hear it. Yes, please.
This is kind of interesting. When you first invited me to be on your show, I always do this. If I'm going to be on someone's show or being interviewed by someone, I always do my research. I'm a researcher at heart. I want to understand how everything connects and how everyone is interconnected, which always comes out with a beautiful, brilliant kind of genealogical pattern, which I found that you and I have that traced all the way back to the sound current. We can talk about that more in private, maybe after the show. Anyhow, in I think it was in the 1990s, I got an email from a Ayurvedic doctor in India, back to our Indian connections, right? Yeah, I've had all those connections all the way through. And his name was Arya Bhardwaj. And he said, I just read your website and I saw that you were a student of Kirpal Singh, who is now passed into the light. And I was a colleague of Kirpal Singh in the Indira Gandhi government. We were both on the same committee for promoting peace in the country. And I'm coming to the United States and I'm doing a tour on Ayurvedic medicine. I would love to come to your academy and do a presentation. So of course I welcomed him, and it was a beautiful connection. And we invited him to be on our advisory board. So more connections between us.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And you're going to India in December, you said?
Yes.
To Mumbai. And you know what I love is that you've been a non-denominational Christian minister since when? Since 1976, is that right?
I was ordained in 1975. And here's another connection. The church that I studied with, a non-denominational church, was the bishop of the church was also initiated into the sound current, but it took me, I didn't know that when I began studying at that seminary training. And how I found out was I was renting a room in his mother's house. I'm in my 20s, late 20s. And I went downstairs to have tea with her. And on her table, next to the tea table, was a photograph of Kirpal Singh. And I said, how do you know this person? And she said, oh, my son, who was the bishop of the non-denominational church I had just joined, my son and I were initiated into the path of the sound current in the 1950s when he came to the United States for the first time.
Oh,
I thought, oh my goodness, all these paths kind of lead
yes.
to and interconnect so many beautiful spirits as we are, as you and I are talking right now.
Exactly. It's just beautiful. And I was in India 25 years ago. And have you been to India before?
Yes.
Must have. Yes,
yes.
many. And you know how when they're driving, they head towards each other almost like they're playing chicken.
Yeah.
And then you see all these semi trucks on their sides with rocks around them. I'm not sure what the rocks are for, but at some point we were like, you know, we got to just go drive. And so we were just following our intuition, and says the driver, turn right, turn left, turn right, had no idea where we were going. And we ended up at the door of Sawan Singh's ashram.
Ah,
And of course,
beautiful.
Sawan Singh was
Yes.
began, you know, and then Kirpa Singh, and I believe Chandra, was it Chandra Singh?
Yes. Yeah. Charan Singh.
Charan Singh.
And
Yes.
I met all of those teachers because they were part of Kirpal Singh's tour in the 70s when I traveled with him.
That must have been extraordinary. That must have been. I can feel that resonance with you, still with you, and I'm so glad that you had the strength. And I can't imagine the strength you had to not to break away from that, but to take that with you and follow your calling and start your own school, your own practice, and honor your gifts, honor the spirit, and take that into the West where it's so sorely needed.
Yeah. Well, you know, the reason on that theme, the reason that I pursued a doctorate degree was because I had been doing my spiritual practice, my energy medicine work, had founded my school, and I would email or phone call all of these prominent researchers in medicine, medical intuition, writers and speakers. None of them would talk to me. None of them would return my emails. And it was because I didn't have those 3 letters after my name. Mm-hmm. So I synchronistically found a school that was giving PhDs, masters and PhDs in energy medicine. So that's why I went through and did my doctorate work through that school and got a PhD in energy medicine and intuition medicine. I asked them to add that as an adjunct. Interestingly enough, all those same people who wouldn't talk to me or return my emails and calls, hello. Yeah, they're inviting me to conferences to talk and, you know, to have conversations and so on. So,
and your gifts are the same, but yes, of course.
Absolutely the same. Yes.
Yes. That's the reason I did too. That's the reason I got a doctorate as well. Same thing.
Yeah.
You need those three letters. Yes. And so I would love to speak about the Christ consciousness for just a moment, if you would, because as well, I'm an ecumenical, non-denominational ordained minister as well. At this point, I think we were separated at birth, you and I. And I'm now writing a book, and I found it fascinating, you know, as I was looking for agents, how some of them it was just a word in a chapter. The book is not on the Christ consciousness, it's on spirituality, on angels actually. And just that word was so divisive. Some people loved it because it had Christ. And I said, Christ consciousness has nothing to do with religion. It's a consciousness available to all, regardless of religion or no religion. And just that word can be so divisive or inclusive. What is your definition of the Christ consciousness, and how do you include people regardless of their beliefs, their belief ideology?
So when I teach getting in touch with different healing energies, which is one of the foundational journeys that my students go through, they first learn and experience their best inner medicine, their innate medicine, which I call your life force energy. And it's called different names by in different systems. And also how to honor Gaia, earth energy, and to use a combination. It's an alchemical vibrational combination of innate life force energy, which we all have, and for our body to be healed and feel connected to spirit, you need to be grounded to the earth. You need to have your body connection to Gaia. So that's the first two energies that my students learn, and that becomes their best medicine forever. When we move into the more advanced training, I introduced what I call the Buddha Christ consciousness energy. And it is so often, let me find the right word here. When I introduce the topic and I use the word Christ, I have reactions from my students. And then I say, Christ is a religion of the spirit. If you look at the definition of Christ, consciousness is religion of the spirit. And Buddha is finding, the definition of Buddha is finding your soul's self. So when you talk about, or you teach, or you experience the Buddha Christ energy, you are on a path, a soul journey path of enlightenment for yourself. Now, where people get confused is when you say the word Christ, they think about Jesus the man. It's totally different. Jesus had great publicity. Jesus the man had great publicity. Lots of books are written about him. So when you use the word Christ, people get confused. Oh, you mean Jesus? No, I mean the omnipotent, all-inclusive vibration that we as humans can tap into. That is called Christ consciousness. It's always there for anyone to tap into. There have just been many spiritual teachers who've had great publicity corner that word and say, I'm the Christ. But everyone can be the Christ and experience the Christ. And through my research and my experience, there is a very specific vibrational current that Jesus the man tapped into, that Buddha tapped into, that downloads this vibration that you can take into your physical body and become more embodied and open up your own spiritual journey. And that's what I teach in my class, getting in touch with the Buddha Christ consciousness.
That is so well spoken and well explained and so creative. I've never heard that term Buddha Christ before hearing about your school. And I have a personal experience with that because I was taking a walk with a graduate of your school, and I had a terrible stomach ache, and we were hiking out kind of remote, and he touched my stomach and called in the Buddha Christ energy and took it down from if 10 is take me to the hospital, I was probably at an 8, took it down to like as I recall, about a 3. With the Buddha Christ energy and calling in the Supreme Being energy. And I've been with some of the best healers in the world. I was very impressed.
Well, let me take that to another level. When I teach these seemingly very esoteric techniques and tools, I always have analogous connections to other systems. So with the Buddha Christ energy, what I discovered early on was that it is analogous and aligns completely with what is called Reiki energy. Reiki energy is simply Buddha Christ energy. And Dr. Usui, who founded the Japanese Reiki system, I don't know if you know this, but he was a Christian minister.
I didn't know that.
And so on his search for understanding more about Christianity, he studied the Buddhist sutras and Indian Vedic philosophies. And what he discovered in his own experiences, that he had miracles happen while he was studying the conjunct systems of Christianity, Buddhism, and Christianity and came to a realization that they were all the same. They were all the same vibration. They overlapped and interconnected with the same consciousness. And he had what he called his first healing miracle happen. He was on a 21-day fast. And when he was coming down from the fast to meet his students, he injured himself, gashed his foot open, lots of blood. And he instinctively put his hands on that bleeding area of his foot, and the bleeding stopped. And the foot healed up almost immediately. And that's when he understood that he was connecting into and downloading the Buddha Christ consciousness energy that he called Reiki. So when you practice Reiki, you're actually practicing and connecting to the same energy that Buddha and Jesus the Christ connected to.
That's just exquisite. To me, this is really moving into the golden age where we are coming into a oneness. To me, the races are blended. Really, even the sexes are becoming a bit more fluid, where we're coming more into a more of an androgynous consciousness. Even the angelic, the connecting more with nature, and the angelic, the extraterrestrials, were coming more into a oneness. It can seem like there's more of a divisiveness on the planet, but I think, as we come more into a oneness, it's surfacing more of that which divides us. But there is a lot of darkness on the planet, but there's more light as well, and more of that which brings us together. And
now, how I approach that topic, and that's a big game on the planet, what you just described. And this planet has a script for learning. There is always going to be light, and there is always going to be dark, because that's part of the script that you signed up for when you embodied. I call that understanding how to collapse duality, because what you just described is opposing forces. However, when you engage in pure and direct spiritual light and soul embodiment, there is a path to collapsing those human challenges of duality into your original essence energy, which transcends that particular game and frees you from karmic restrictions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we get above into the higher realms, or even right here in the higher realms, we see that God, divinity, supreme being, whatever we call it, is learning from it all. And there is no dark, there is no light, there's no high, there's no low. It's all God's hand at play, God's hand at learning. It's all one. How could there be dark or light? How could there be separation? It's all source, learning about itself through us.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's very difficult for some people to get to that point and to let it go and just to become an embodied soul self. And that's my purpose. That's my mission. I have another interesting story, and it goes back to India.
Wonderful.
So I'm on my first trip to India, Delhi, and my husband and I land quite late, go into our hotel, and I'm feeling very tired, so I go to sleep. In the middle of the night, I'm finding myself in extreme pain, excruciating pain I've never experienced before, an indescribable type of pain, but I am completely locked out of my body. So I'm aware that I'm out of my body, I'm above my physical body, and I'm in this excruciating pain. I can see out of my body that my husband is panicking. He's at the end of the bed, panicking and not knowing what to do. He can't wake me up. And so I am completely out of my body. I'm in my spirit body. And all of a sudden, I'm catapulted into an Indian woman's body. And I'm experiencing walking towards a funeral pyre where my husband is being, yes, the death ritual. And I am expected to throw myself also on the fire. You understand that? Okay, so
Yes.
I'm in that, and that's very painful. The next thing is I'm quickly shifted, and I'm in another body. I am in a withered old Eastern man's body who's sitting in a lotus position and dying, conscious dying. I experience my soul leaving that body, moving into this very bright light, getting to the end of the light, the end of the tunnel, and I hear a voice saying, you can leave now. You can leave this planet, you can leave this cycle. It's your choice. I hesitate for a moment, very cognizant, very aware of all of this going on. And I choose the choice to come back as a teacher. And as soon as I made that choice, I was slammed back into my body. And it was still dark and it was at night. I'm in my bed. My husband is in the other bed. He's asleep. And I open my physical eyes and I see a very tall, turbaned Indian man standing at the door with his arms crossed and a plate of food next to him on a silver tray. And I blink a little bit and I get up and I realize it's just an image. It's a visage. So my husband wakes up, I wake him up and I tell him my experience. And then I say, well, I saw this image of an Indian man at the door. And he said, oh yes, he brought us dinner last night. I was very hungry. And I asked him to save that silver plate, keep it here because you would be hungry when you woke up. And he said, no, I can't do that. If you steal it, I have to pay for it. And my husband, gave him a bunch of money and said, no, don't worry, we won't. His spirit was there guarding it so that we wouldn't steal it. So that was my first experience arriving in India. So my soul calls India her home.
Absolutely. Wow. And what an incredible gift to know your purpose for this lifetime and why you're here and why you've chosen to stay embodied, because this level is not always easy.
Anyone can learn what their purpose is. And that's the current that runs through the Academy program. And all the classes, all the learning is for you to find your soul purpose and your journey this lifetime and lifetimes past and future, what that journey is. That is the best profound medicine for humans, for souls embodied in human form.
Absolutely. And that's quite a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. I not surprisingly, had a similar experience. So we seem to have been somewhat separated at birth. I won't go into that because I have a burning question for you. So I've heard that in your school, you focus on first, and I love your description of chakras if beloved listeners, if you are interested in chakras and auras, beautiful descriptions, both of the energetics of chakras and auras and how they are through all the different disciplines and also the science behind them in this book, Body of Health, which is available on Amazon, right?
Yes. And through our school, you can also purchase it through the Academy.
And through the school, which is intuitionmedicine.org? That's
correct.
Intuitionmedicine.org, which I'm going to be telling you all about that and before we end. And I'm going to endeavor to do a meditation encapsulating much of what we've discussed towards the end of our call, which is soon. Oh my goodness, time is flying. What I've heard is that in your school, you focus on the first through the seventh chakras, really assisting students to heal them, to work with them, to embody them, to to learn all about them. And only in the very last part of the last month of an 18-month program do you focus on the 8th chakra and above. So talk to me a little bit more about that. Is that accurate? Talk to me about that.
Oh, you have great insider information. Yes, that's accurate. And
I can't disclose my sources.
The reason for that is learning to embody your soul for many people is a very difficult task. And one has to be fully soul embodied in order to transform, to heal, to find purpose, to follow their journey. Because we are signed up, when you're born, you sign up to incarnate in a physical realm, in a physical lockdown, three-dimensional system. And there is a purpose for that. So teaching people to be fully embodied and to be their own best physician healer first enables a person then to explore higher realms that really take you out of your body, 8th chakra and beyond, and then to know how to return to the body and to bring all that wisdom that you have accrued from the higher realms into your physical body so that you can, with purpose, use that wisdom to transform and to evolve as a human and to bring your humanness closer to who you are as a spirit. It's an intricately designed curriculum with that purpose in mind.
So what I'm hearing you say is you focus on the 7 chakras. So it's really focusing on the body of being safely embodied. You didn't say that, but that's what I would call it, being safely embodied and deeply grounded and rooted, and really taking the 18 months or so to learn to heal yourself, self-healing, which is incredibly important. So you're sovereign. And then at the end of the program, then you learn in the last month to go up and out so that then you can return safely into your own sovereign system. Did I hear that?
That's absolutely correct. Yes, autonomy, sovereignty. But here's another focal point. You can enter those out of body, esoteric realms while you are in your body. And if you learn how to do that, there's portals within our physical body. We were not given the handbook on how to be more human when we were born, right? So a lot of my teaching is to focus on you becoming more human and find all that secret alchemical information within your physical body because it's there. And there's portals where you can stay embodied, conscious, and enter those esoteric realms and bring it directly back into your body and to become more spiritually embodied. Because unless you're living in a cave or in a nunnery, I mean, we are modern mystics in the modern world. And how can you do that? How can you maintain your spirituality and be a modern mystic while you are witnessing all of this human consciousness and the good and the bad and the whole duality? How can you maintain your spiritual center in that chaos?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I love that as well, that as far as my understanding that we both do, and I think is so important so that we don't do a spiritual bypass, is prioritize grounding. My path and my work, I do a lot on 8th chakra and above, but we have to then ground that. And I love your, I think, again, referring back to this book, I love your grounding techniques. I think they're brilliant. You know, and it's so important so that we feel safely embodied, and then we can go higher, in my experience, because then we have a younger self, where and a basic self where when we feel safely grounded, then it allows us to go into the higher realms. because then we feel rooted as well as winged.
Yes. Our spirit is the guardian, is the parent to our body, who is the child. And I see that as part of our learning journey. I have a funny aside story. When a student completes the first class at 6 weeks, they're so proud of themselves because they often say, wow, I'm so grounded now. I'm so embodied. And then they take the next class in another 6 weeks. They say, oh, thought I was grounded. Well, now I'm even more grounded. And that continues all the way through the program. And then when one reflects back to when they started the program, oh, I thought I was grounded way back then. I'm really grounded now. I'm embodied now.
Yeah, beautiful. It's, it's something that my teacher would say is, etc., eternally traveling consciousness.
Yes.
It's always etc. My last question before we move into our meditation, and then I'm going to tell our beloved listeners and watchers exactly how to find you, and I'm going to actually let you share more about your work and how to find you. And you have a couple courses coming up, and then a self-paced course as well. My last question is about accessing inner knowing. And you told the most gorgeous story. I love your story of of very clearly knowing your purpose. So when, let's say, you have your every fiber of your beingness and your heart and your mind wants one thing in your life, and that very still small voice is saying, beloved, go thou this way. How do you know what is, in my parlance, the highest good? How do you get to the highest directive, highest spiritual guidance within?
The core of that, to answer that question, is to develop a meditation practice. And by meditation practice, I mean spending daily time, it can just be 5 minutes a day, in quiet, no think mind, greeting yourself, welcoming you as a spirit into your body, and allowing a feeling of self-love and recognition that you are more than your body. Developing that as I love myself, I welcome my spirit fully into my body, all other questions are revealed. I like to say that when you're in the no think and in the nothing space and in the totally quiet space, that's when wisdom is revealed. It's important to find quiet.
Beautiful. And for you personally, if you don't mind sharing, Francesca, how do you best receive information? Are you clairaudient, clairsentient? How do you mostly receive it?
All of those senses. I've always been clairvoyant. I have a good clairaudient story. My knowing is very strong. I'm very clairsentient. I feel things way too much from other people. And probably every sense that you can talk about or describe, which I actually start, that's the very, very first class. I line up 21 different ways that you can perceive intuitive information, and have my students start a log to rate how open they are and developed in those particular senses. And what students find is the more grounded and embodied they get, the more quiet mind, those senses come online. It's like wiring starts to interconnect in the physiology and in the nervous system, and it opens up those subtle senses that allow you to experience more than the 5 common senses.
Beautiful. And I love how you say that, and I want you to correct me if I'm misspeaking here, but did you say that when you're grounded, it actually allows a discharge of negativity into the earth? Like it allows you to release negativity, and it's not that you're harming the earth actually, and this is my take is actually receiving, learning from it, being energized from it.
Yeah, Gaia loves our clutter and our garbage. She uses it as energy compost to make more flowers. So
exactly.
yeah,
That's
so
my
that
experience.
that discharge just enervates the earth, and she transforms that energy.
That is very much my experience as well. And I've been saying that for years, and I've had a lot of people challenge that. And you're, I think, possibly the first person besides me who said that. I was so delighted when I read, I like circled it so many times when I read that. So pray for me. I'm going to attempt to do a meditation and try to give us a little bit of an underscore, a highlight of what we've experienced. It's just going to be a few moments, and then we'll get to hear from you about your work and how we can find you. Okay?
Beautiful.
Wonderful. So our beloved listeners, let's just take a moment. If you're driving, do stay safe and know you can do this right along with us. If you're not, if you would please open your heart and gently close your eyes and just lift up your hands, just stretch in your body and just expand your consciousness. Just stretch your arms out, allowing yourself to shift your energy field, and just gently place your hands in your aura, that energetic field around your body in 7 layers, and just open and place the goodness of this field we've created together. Be aware of that in your energetic field. Just be aware of your hands in your field, and just sense into your aura, combing your aura for a moment. And you can just gently comb your aura and pluck out anything no longer needed. And just as it leaves your fingertips, it goes back into the nothingness from which it came. And just do a moment now that your energy fields might be clear and clean. And now be aware of increasing the light in your own energetic field, in your chakras, in your body, in every cell. And even as your hands mark your own aura, they expand now. As you expand, the back of your palms touching the palms of all those present. And now you turn your palms out as we touch palm to palm. Palms of light, touching palms of light. And your hands continue to expand, touching the palms of Mother Gaia, receiving the deep grounding of Gaia. And you take in a deep breath and breathe in light, and as you exhale, you just let go of anything you no longer need. Just letting it go, energizing the earth. One more deep breath, inhale love. As you exhale, you let go of anything no longer needed for the very last time. Open to miracles, let it all go with some sound. And you just gently now let your hands come across your heart chakra, increasing the loving. Feeling your heart chakra open evermore. Your heart opening to receive and give love. Now your hands gently rest at your side. As beloved spirit, we open and just open evermore into the light of the Holy Spirit, into our soul self, connecting into the sound current, asking that our spiritual senses be amplified, that we be ever more aware of the Spirit, that we might be increasingly sovereign, healed, aware that God, that Spirit, is learning through every thought, feeling, word, and action. That we are the presence of love, that we are sovereign, that our life force is well, is healthy, is love. That our Buddha Christ energy is bright, is brilliant, is healing us from the inside out and the outside in, knowing there is no difference. That we are the presence of spirit itself. That we are enlightening, enlightened, and enlightenment. Each chakra lit from within. Each chakra, the source of divinity from within, touched and tapping into divinity from without. Our planet healed, our self healed, our love amplified. That we are one, that we are source, that we are well. We are deeply grateful for the many blessings that already are. And so be it, and blessed be. Amen. Take one last deep breath as one, being aware of everyone on the call, breathing as one, breathe in love, and as you exhale, that love amplifies. And so, Francesca, thank you so much for being with us. Let's tell these beautiful people. So I will give them your links, and then I would love for you to tell us in your own words about your amazing work. So it's Academy of Intuition Medicine. There's in-person classes that begin September 7th. The link is intuition, very easy, intuitionmedicine.org. And then there's classes that are online that you can go at your own pace, and that's also intuitionmedicineonline.org. Those you can start anytime. And there's, as mentioned, the book I've mentioned several times, which is Body of Health. And that's also at the same website, intuitionmedicine.org. Tell us what you'd like us to know about your offerings.
2 schools, Academy of Intuition Medicine Campus School starts twice a year, first week in September and the first week in January. And we have students who physically in person come to the school, and also Zoom students. We have Zoom students come in from all over the globe, different time zones. And in each class, we have 10 to 15 teaching assistants who, once you're in the program, you have private, no extra fee tutoring and mentoring with our teaching assistants. The Academy of Intuition Medicine Online is self-paced, it's asynchronistic. You can do it at any time. And the 14 classes, the 14 modules that are in the online program, you do not have to take sequentially. You can take whatever class or topic that you're interested in at, again, at your own pace. The Academy also gives continuing education units to chiropractors, to nurses, to acupuncturists, to doctors of Chinese medicine, and to professional body workers. So we welcome anyone. In our online school, we have students in 30 countries and in 26 states within the United States who are on the asynchronistic platform. So come in person, Zoom in. We'd love to have you as a student.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Francesca, this has been a pure delight. Thank you so much for joining us. do you have any closing thoughts before we say goodbye?
5 minutes a day in quiet meditation, allowing the feeling of being in love with your embodied soul self works miracles. Namaste.
I concur entirely. Namaste. Thank you so much. Beloved listeners and watchers, thank you so much for joining Live Your Love with Dr. Francesca McCartney. This has been an absolute privilege. Please do join us next month with the amazing Dr. Robert Holden, author of 9 best-selling books, who's joining us for a part 2. We'll be looking forward to that, and we'll see you next month. Live your love.